Merry Meet, and welcome to Pagan Information Network.
News and notes of interest to pagans from around the world.
Let's see who came in off the broom.
Merry Meet, welcome to Pagan Information Network. News and notes of interest to pagans from around the world. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and so we read one of his speeches in his honor. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. We all have come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to change racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice ring out for all of God's children. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted citizenship rights. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. Stay tuned for more.
Merry Meet, and welcome to Pagan Information Network, news and notes of interest to pagans from around the world. Today, in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we are reading some of his speeches. The words of the late John F. Kennedy come back to haunt us. He said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." Increasingly, by choice or by accident, this is the role our nation has taken. The role of those who make peaceful revolution impossible by refusing to give up the privileges and the pleasures that come from the immense profits of overseas investments. I'm convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. Thank you, Dr. King. Stay tuned for more.
Merry Meet, welcome to Pagan Information Network. Today's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and so we read his speeches in his honor. In the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summer of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention. Thank you, Dr. King. Blessings to you. Stay tuned for more.
Merry Meet, welcome to Pagan Information Network, news and notes of interest to pagans from around the world. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and so we read one of his speeches in his honor. I refuse to accept the cynical notion that nation after nation must spiral down a militaristic stairway into the hell of thermonuclear destruction. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right temporarily defeated is stronger than evil triumphant. I believe that even amidst today's mortal bursts and whining bullets, there is still hope for a brighter tomorrow. I believe that wounded justice, lying prostrate on the blood-flowing streets of our nations, can be lifted from this dust of shame to reign supreme among the children of men. I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality and freedom for their spirits. I believe that what self-centered men have torn down, men other-centered can build up. Stay tuned for more.
Merry Meet, and welcome to Pagan Information Network, news and notes of interest to pagans from around the world. Today, in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we'll be reading selected quotes. Why should we love our enemies? The first reason is fairly obvious. Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Hate multiplies hate, violence multiplies violence, and toughness multiplies toughness in a descending spiral of destruction. So when Jesus says, "Love your enemies," he is setting forth a profound and ultimately inescapable admonition. Have we not come to such an impasse in the modern world that we must love our enemies or else? The chain reaction of evil, hate begetting hate, wars producing wars, must be broken, or we shall be plunged into the dark abyss of annihilation. Thank you, Dr. King.
Mary Meets, welcome to Pagan Information Network. News and notes of interest to pagans from around the world. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and so we read his speeches in his honor. For those who ask the question, aren't you a civil rights leader, and thereby mean to exclude me from the movement for peace, I have this further answer. In 1957, when a group of us formed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, we chose as our motto, to save the soul of America. And we were convinced that we could not limit our vision to certain rights for black people, but instead affirmed the conviction that America would never be free or saved from itself until the descendants of its slaves were loosed completely from the shackles they still wear. In a way, we were agreeing with Langston Hughes, that black bard of Harlem, who had written earlier, "Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be." Thank you for everything, Dr. King. Stay tuned for more.